All right. Tonight we're gonna be breaking breaking down the schedule of the season and predicting. Predicting how we think the season what will happen throughout the season. So let me share my screen so the viewers can see the schedule. Oh, so we got week one against the Jets. Um, I like how they have the Jets week one. That's a Robert Sala revenge game. That's gonna be. I feel like there's gonna be a lot of viewers on that one, especially since it's a 1 o'clock pick and it's on CBS. So and the storyline behind it with Robert Sala. So I feel like that's gonna be a really um, bunch of eyes on that one. What are your takeaways from that one?
Yeah, week one. I mean, this is the final year in Nissan Stadium. This is, I would say this is kind of a start to the farewell. This is a great start to the season. The Titans have not had a home game since 2022. And when you look at the track records in the last 5 years, they've been on the road in the home opener week one 60% of the time. So it would be 70% if they were on the road again. And it just made sense. I mean, week one, like you mentioned, all your eyes are on it. Like everybody's watching it. You mentioned Robert Sala, but you have to think about the guys on both sides. The Titans, they have Jacob Martin, who they just signed to play with the Jets. You have top of my head, you have Jermaine Johnson, who came from the trade from Devondre Sweat, John Franklin Myers, Tony Adams. There's a lot of guys on this list that are playing their former teams probably for the first time. And when you think about it, at the end of the day, this is going to have a lot of eyes on the board. I mean, Robert Sala in Nashville, this things are high, and basically you got to think to yourself, this is going to be the week that you need to prove it. I'm not going to say it's a must win, but it would feel nice to get a win, right? Because week one, it would be nice to start out fresh with 1-0, but the players on both sides and also the coaches on both sides also were primarily on the Titans, because there's a lot of guys on the staff, but Jarvis Brownlee Lee Jr. is having a revenge game. That divorce was kind of ugly. Devondre Sweat, the same thing, not as ugly, but both those guys want revenge against their former club. So against these two teams, I really do like it. I can see a win week number one for the Titans, but it feels good just having a home opener for the first time since 2022.
Right. I liked how you hit on Brownie and Sweat, how they gotta come out for blood against us in Nashville, and especially hopefully there's gonna be a big Titans crowd there compared to
Mm-hmm.
normally how there are more road fans at the stadium there. Hopefully we can pack out the stadium there and give them um, a surprise there and win that game. Hopefully, I feel like it's gonna be a close game there, especially week one. It's unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
now,
I mean, I do also want to bring up as well. I mean, this is, I think Cam Ward's also going to have a good game in this one as well. And, the Jets secondary coming in this game, you also have to think about they did not have an interception at all last season. They didn't get a single turnover. So the pressure is also on Cam to not be sloppy and make sure, hey, I don't want to give the Jets the first pick since 2023. So it's me 24. But I, I think everybody's going to have to know at the same time, this is the first game back. He's coming from the shoulder injury. He just had it. He didn't have surgery on it, but still, the shoulder injury is still a big factor when he was throwing. So I think he's also going to have a big week number one against the Jets defense here too.
yeah, I agree with that. With um, Ward having a big game against the Jets. So now week two, they go up against the Eagles. I feel like this one, with how the Eagles have been trending in the past couple years down, and I believe that with the fact that AJ Brown possibly not being on the Eagles could give him a little bit of a factor hit. And similarly with the head coach. I feel like the Eagles, they need. I think that could be a close game as well, a little bit closer. And I feel like that could be maybe a steal for the Titans there and shock the NFL get a win there, possibly getting to a 2-0 start to the season.
Yeah, you would love to start out 2-0. And again, I like that they have back-to-back home games. That does make me feel good. They haven't had back-to-back home games start off the season in a while. They last played the Eagles in 2022 in Philly. If you remember 2018, Corey Davis caught that overtime touchdown and got the win in Nissan Stadium. I will tell you this about the Eagles. It sounds like A.J. Brown is going to get traded. The whole variable thing, but I think he's going to get traded. The matter of time is just when, and that's going to have to happen after June 2nd. The Eagles also lost one of their stud edge rushers in Jalen Phillips, who I thought the Titans should have brought in. That guy makes a huge impact on that defensive line. So that team's a little bit shaken up. They still have good offensive line. They still have a really dominant line. They still have weapons around. They just drafted Mekhi Lemon out of USC. They still have a strong running game with Saquon Barkley. So that offense is going to be pretty deadly. The defense, though, still has some holes. I think that's still the biggest question. I think, Carnell Tate's going to attack them, especially on the deep ball. They lost their safety. So if it's a rookie safety or whoever's going to be in that position, I think you can see a couple deep balls with Cam and Carnell Tate in that game just to try to create one-on-one separation on the outside. You can also see some play-action play, especially you can run the ball better. I think the Titans are going to run the ball a little bit better this year. I think the offensive line is going to hold up a little bit, especially the Eagles' D-line's a little more weaker this year. I shouldn't say weaker, but they've lost a couple guys. So a couple guys are going to have to step up. Until then, we don't know exactly a true number one. But the point is, I truly think, honestly, that could be a win at Nissan Stadium. I think that's one of the games I kind of circled as a 50-50 ball. But Jalen Hurts, if he has an off game and if the Eagles defense can't hang in there as much long as they can, that could get ugly for Philly and Nashville.
I agree with the fact, especially with Jalen Hurts. I feel like with that, if he's trying to press it down to Lemon or Devontae Smith, one of our corners or safeties can take one of their weapons away. And if he's just relying on Lemon and then also with the running game with Barkley, that's going to be harder for them to be ahead. So they'll be playing catch-up ball against us. So that could possibly lean towards our way. So
and you mentioned the safeties this year. Monty Hooker is going to have a good year, and we'll discuss that later on. I think Hooker is going to go back to his primary role that he kind of got out of place since Kevin Byard got traded. So you put him out of place, and now you're wondering, okay, can Hooker go back to his spot? And then I think Kevin Winston's going to take a big leap this year. Kevin Winston, the safety at Penn State, who they drafted last year, probably should have been a first-round pick, right? But he falls to the third round just because of his torn ACL injury. So I expect the safety room, and by the way, don't rule out the depth behind you. Tony Adams knows that offense Adams is going to play in that a little bit. I expect Bishop Fitzgerald to play in that a little bit. I think he's going to make the roster come in September if anything doesn't happen to him injury-wise. But the Eagles and Titans, it's going to be loud. It might be a lot of Birds fans in Nashville, unfortunately, just because they travel. But it's going to be loud in Nashville. It's going to be really, really loud.
It will be. So with week 3, unfortunately, we didn't get any primetime games, but
we'll talk about that because I have something I'll leak a little bit later. We'll talk about that.
All right. So with week 3, go to the Giants. This one's going to be – I feel like this one's going to get probably the most views out of the first 3 games. Since with how the fact Titans were interested in Harbaugh and Harbaugh canceled his meeting with the Titans and went to Giants. The Ward rivalry with I'm losing the name of quarterback in New York now. Sorry.
Oh, Dart? You're talking about Jackson Dart?
Dart, yes. The rivalry between Dart and Ward since
I don't think
the
they faced each other. They didn't face each other last year. This will be the
no,
first year.
no, they haven't. But like I've been hearing a lot of stuff throughout fan base. Like one thing throughout the fan base that it's kind of like a rivalry since the Giants and Titans have since the Titans have Dayball from the Giants, and then we were interested in Hardball, so that's kind of a rivalry there. And then the Giants got their OC that we were interested in as the head coach.
Oh, you're talking about Nagy?
Nagy, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what that one person was explaining, how it's a rivalry. So with also two up and coming teams. So I feel like with this game against the Giants in New York, it's gonna be part of your packed house with Giants fans. And I feel like their defense with the Giants is to be a little bit weaker since they made that trade with the Bengals. So I feel like we gotta attack them heavily through the air. Not just on the ground, but through the air. And I feel like it could be a close game, just depending on how well Dart and Bo Scabo plays against us. So, and by then, Malik Neighbors should be about 100%. So depending on what their game plan is against us, I feel like it's going to be a very close game, probably a shootout. The offenses are going to go wild. I can see that with both young quarterbacks. So I feel like it could go either way in that one.
Yeah, you mentioned, I'll kick off with Malik Neighbors. He just had a second knee surgery this offseason. He had one. Apparently, there's some things going on, and apparently had to get a second one, which is not a great sign. I don't think Neighbors is going to be in there in a lot of offseason workouts. He's going to miss a lot of time in the offseason stuff, so it might take him a little while to get back. He should be there by week 3, though. But you never know. And if that happens second time this offseason, yeah, it very much could set him back a little bit. I'm looking at the Giants' depth chart. The offense, they needed a guard. They added Francis Magiola. Guard tackle on Miami is going to convert to guard now, who I think was one of the best offensive tackles in this draft. But the offense upgrade. Scatterboo, you mentioned, he had concussions ankle last year. Is he going to be able to play ability like he did before he got hurt against Philadelphia? I don't know. I expect a lot of the two running backs to get a lot of time in that game. Tyron Tracy's still a good backfield running back. I think he's going to get some time there. It all is going to depend if they're going to protect Jackson Dart. But they've added weapons with Isaiah Likely. The defense, like you mentioned, when they lost Dexter Lawrence, they brought in DJ Reader. So you're like, okay, you replace that guy. The edge rushers are still dominant. Brian Burns, Arvon Reese on one side. When you look at the edge guys, this defense is still elite. Abdul Carter, I know he didn't show much last year on paper, but I think he's still going to show some good things this year. The secondary, yeah, it still is questionable. It still is. Paulson Dabu from New Orleans, he was kind of like a backup last year, so you kind of have to wonder, okay, he's going to be a starting role. Is he going to be able to take on that role, right? Is he going to be able to cover Iron Manor or DK, or if he's going to cover Ridley or Carnell Tate? But the guy that I am watching in this defense is Javon Holland. He's been a dog. He came from Miami, signed with the Giants, and he's an underrated safety, and you got to watch out for him in the flat. He's going to hit pretty hard, and you got to watch out for him. Greg Newsome's another guy in that secondary room who has played corner multiple times with the Browns, Jags, and if he's dominant, if he's healthy, yeah, he can be good at times. I can potentially see a win here. I won't be surprised. This is the first Titans loss of the year. The Giants are dominant, but I do see either going either way. It's currently where we stand currently at the moment, but this is also a Brian Daboll revenge game. Brian Daboll's going back to New York to face his former team after they fired him in New York. And then also it's also Brian Callahan, also revenge game as well. He's also there in New York as well. So again, a pair another Titans coaches, former coaches on both sides going at it again.
Yeah, it's good points there with Callahan going to the Giants. I almost forgot about that point there. Thank you for bringing that up.
Mm-hmm.
So now with week 4, they go the Ravens. First time against Derrick Henry. That Baltimore, with Baltimore, it can go either way.
Yeah.
Mainly with the history, the fact of that whenever the Titans go to Baltimore, Titans win those games, and as well as in the playoffs. So, but mainly in the regular season, that the history shows that Titans will win in Baltimore most likely than not. And it's weird like that with the history. It's like Baltimore comes to Tennessee. Baltimore more likely than not will win in Tennessee. And then when we go to Baltimore, more likely than not, we will win in Baltimore. But with Baltimore, with the new head coach, I feel like that their defense is going to be better than it has been the past few years. I'm not saying that in the top 5 range, but like a top 10 be fair. And the offense, with the losses of Likely, I feel like with the fact with that might hurt a little, but I think with the fact they still have Bateman and oh my gosh, I'm thinking tonight. I'm sorry, Bateman and
Zay Flowers is there.
yes,
Mark Andrews is still at 10-1. Yeah.
So with them, that gives them a good enough amount of threat to go up against anyone and give them a good chance to win the game. I feel like if they give the ball to Henry more than they throw it, I feel like it's got to lean more against Baltimore. But if they throw it more, I think that's going to lean more against Titans. So I'm 50-50 on this game. So I believe it can go either way. I'm not – that one's a hard one to pick, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you start out on the offense, and we'll talk about Lamar Jackson. He was injured to start the year. He was kind of 50-50, and, there were questions like, is he back to his healthy self? And I don't think so. I don't think it was a healthy Lamar year last year, and he might have rushed himself a little bit back. And even though the Baltimore Ravens still had a down year, Derrick Henry still put over 1,500 yards. And he had almost 2,000 the year before that. Derrick Henry is still productive. And that is going to be the story of the game, Derrick Henry versus the Titans. We have not faced Derrick Henry since he has left Tennessee. But I'm really also eyeing the offensive line. It is somewhat new in a way, right? You still got Ronnie Stanley, who's an outstanding tackle. You got Vega Lane, who they drafted from Penn State. But they still got some young guys in there, some young guys who have not really started so much, and some guys that are taking new leaps this role. They lost their center in Tyler Linderbaum. So who's going to replace them, right? Who's going to take that step, and who's going to fill in that shoes of Tyler Linderbaum? John Simpson is a new right guard for Baltimore. How long is he going to take? Because, as many offensive line pieces you put in together, the less time that they have together, the less time it's going to take them to work, not work, but it mean less time for them to get ready because, all these guys are new and all these guys are different in their own way. And then the right tackle, the right side of the line is still questionable. The Ravens still have good weapons. Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, both on the outside. Walker, who actually is going to be playing more outside than Zay Flowers. Flowers is going to play a lot in the slot. But I'm looking for big games. I mean, Jacoby Lane and Elijah Surratt both going to have big games against the Titans. The Titans need to protect that middle of the field because Jacoby Lane can get open and make those deep catches down the middle of the field. I also want to say this, the defense, and this is the first time we'll face Trey Hendrickson in a while. Trey Hendrickson has had good games against the Titans. he's going to be playing a good game on that defense. Again, new guys in that role, Kyle Hamilton, who's a stud safety, Malachi Starks, who got drafted last year, is a guy to watch. The Ravens got good guys on defense. The Ravens got studs everywhere. I don't think this is a win for Tennessee just because I think this will be – I will say this. I think it'll be close. I just don't think it'll be a win right now because the Ravens just got so much talent everywhere. And I think the Ravens are going to have a better year. Even though, yes, they did let go of John Harbaugh, they still got guys like Jesse Minter is a terrific defensive coordinator. You got a great offensive coordinator who's young, is like 31, 32 years old. I'm pretty sure, at the top of my head, who's just one of the youngest coordinators in the league. Anthony Weaver's there, who is a great defensive mind. So, in my opinion, I don't know if this will – I don't think this will be a win, but I would absolutely think, in my opinion, that Derrick Henry, he can very much go off in this game against the Titans.
I agree with everything that you said, and I feel like since that you broke it down, I feel like I'm leaning towards the Ravens win there too as well. So that is a possibility with the Ravens winning. So with week 5 against the Texans, a home game. So this one's going to be quite interesting. The first divisional game of the season at home, and with the whole rebrand. I'm not necessarily going to call it a rebrand. I'm going to call it coming back brand, because we brought the Oilers colors back, the Oilers jerseys back. The only thing that's missing is the red face mask. So mark my words, everyone. There are going to be Texans fans in Nashville as well, who are going to be upset about what we did with the Oilers stuff. What I've been saying all offseason is don't let them be like that, because that's not their history. That's our history, and that's our team. Let them be complaining and crying about order stuff. So this is going to be the game of the week, in my opinion. Titans against the Texans. Texans defense is going to be probably top 2 defense.
Oh, 100%.
Again, this come up season. I feel like CJ Stroud is going to have a big year this year. A big year. He has a lot to prove with what happened last season, and especially in the playoffs. And people are saying, oh, like the past couple of off seasons, I've been saying, oh, trade him. No, you don't trade the cornerstone quarterback who's shown you what he's capable of, especially what he did in his rookie year. I understand past couple years we're down. That does not mean he can come back and show you what he has done. I feel like that's what we should keep our eye on against the Texans offense against us. And they got David Montgomery from the Lions, so they can go both ways against us. Montgomery and Stroud on offense. Especially with all those weapons he has. I'm not sure with, I believe it's Tank Dell that was out all of that season.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
So is he going to be back this season? Like, if he is, that's got to give him an extra weapon. And if he's at 100%, that's going to be dangerous. The Texans can be a very dangerous team to anyone when they're rolling. So I think that's going to be a Texans win. I hate to say it, but they got more weapons than we do, better pieces, and the depth. And D'Amico Ryans is going to go up against Robert Saleh. Both of them were in San Francisco. So that's another thing to keep eye out on.
Yeah, you touched up the Texans offense. You mentioned Tank Dell. He's all outlaw last year. I think who is going to miss a little bit of time to start off-season workouts, but once he's going to get going, I think he'll be right there and get going in that offense. The Texans offensive line, they have rebuilt that whole offensive line this offseason. They have made it clear. They were like, hey, our offensive line needs to be better. What can we do to fix it? Well, they traded Tunzel. to they got rid of him, and some were shocked, some were not. So your whole line had to get removed, reshaped, and all this stuff. You brought in Ryan Teller, who's been proven to be a solid guard. Caleb Rutledge, who I think is the steal of the draft for the Texans, and they had to take him in the first round, which is respectful. Caleb Rutledge is one of the best guards in this league. Braden Smith, the right tackle from the Colts, who they just signed as well. So they got some studs in that line. The question is, again, how long are they going to take to play together? But that defense is top 10 in the league. It should be top 5 in my opinion. The Texas defense should be top 5. Their highest ceiling is top 3 this year. If they don't make a top 3, then something's going on, right? The Texans always have a fiery defense. These guys hit hard. These guys hit a lot, and they didn't have to add much in the draft, but they still added pieces on that defense. And then a couple guys to watch. Azeez Al-Shaair always hits really hard. That defensive line, the edge rushers with Anderson and Hunter, both guys on both sides, that is going to be nasty. And plus, they added Caden McDonald, one of the best defensive tackles in the draft. So, yeah, there's pieces everywhere. Again, the biggest question is C.J. Stroud. He's got to have at least a decent season. I don't think he's going to get traded like you just mentioned, Brady. But at the same time, you got to ask yourself, if he's not going to be much in the next couple of years, what's the plan? Because I think Stroud is still the quarterback, but I think fans are also saying at the same time, Stroud in the playoffs, they should have went far last year if it wasn't for that Patriots game in the divisional round. I think Stroud will also have a good year. My biggest question is for the Titans, can they actually get something going in that Texas defense? That's what I'm waiting to see. So we'll see what happens. I don't think it'll be a win either. I don't see that one being a win at home.
The other thing I forgot to mention is Tommy Townsend was a Texan as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's got to be something to keep an eye out on. So I like that addition for us as well. So Tommy Townsend. I'm a Gator fan, so he was a former Gator. So there we go. So week 6 will be at the Colts. Another divisional game. Last year, those were rough games, especially with Taylor going off against us. I don't know what to expect from the Colts this year because they brought Jones back. He's coming back from injury. They don't have. They made a trade with the Steelers.
Pittman, yeah.
So if Jones is not going well in that game, Taylor might go off against us again, and that's gonna be a loss, like last season. But I don't know about the Colts this season. I don't have a feel on them yet. Like they can finish anywhere in the division, but it just depends on Jones, in my opinion. I don't know. I feel like this game should be a win, but it just depends on how effective we can be against Taylor if he gets the ball more than Jones is throwing it.
Well, they're gonna run the ball a lot against the Titans in this game. Taylor's destroyed the Titans so many times. But I think the offense, again, you are missing, like you mentioned, Pittman. So they're gonna have to fill that hole. And currently, right now, that's a former friend, Nick Resberg-Akine, who's gonna fill that spot for the Colts, who used to play on the Titans. So he might have a big game. What I'm looking for is about how the Texans, if you can't get anything going with Taylor, how is Daniel Jones gonna look with his Achilles? Is he gonna be back week number 1? Possibly. If he's not, and if you come to 6, is this the game that he's going to return the first game back? Because it very much could be. If Daniel Jones misses a couple weeks, remember he got hurt later on in the season, and that's when the Colts collapsed. But yes, the Colts are one of those weird teams. They are going to be that team that could do something. They could maybe go as heck mid as they did again, or they can either maybe get to 10 wins. We don't know. They're going to be somewhere in that line. I will say this, though. That defense has gotten a little bit better this offseason than they did last year. They got Arden Key, who, if Arden Key can stay healthy, former Tennessee Titan as well, I think he could potentially have an impact on that line. They upgraded at linebacker. They drafted 2 studs that potentially could start at the Mike linebacker spot, which they need to upgrade at C.J. Allen and Bryce Botcher, who I had in my list as well. But I think that defensive line, Forrest Buckner, is always going to be taking the load. I think at secondary is Sauce Gardner. I think Sauce Gardner is also going to have a pretty good year. I think he's going to rebound this year than he did last year. They didn't spend a whole lot of money in free agency, but they got pieces that they needed to do. So I think this could be a win right now currently. But when you're looking about it, I won't be surprised if the Colts use heavy run offense to wear down the run defense for the Titans, because the Titans were not great run defense last year. I think they'll be better run defense this year, which we'll talk about later. But I can see a win. I hope it's a win. I would love to get a win for the first time since 2024 against the division opponent, because we've not get a win at all last year. We're 0-6, a goose egg. You don't want that. If you want to be a winning football team, you got to get these wins. So they got to take care against the AFC South opponents.
Yes, and especially with how well the Colts have done during the offseason with defense. Another name to mention for them is they picked up a guy during undrafted free agent out of Arkansas. So he's probably going to be another guy to keep an eye out on. So that's going to be an interesting game to watch. So now with week 7, home game against the Browns, this is going to be a close game, a rematch of last year. They gonna have most likely have Sanders starting this season for the Browns, and the Browns. I don't think that. I agree with what everyone's saying. They're not gonna be good this year, and I feel like that's probably gonna be one of the easier wins that we can get this season. And I like the addition with the draft. They got Casey Concepcion from A&M, Texas A&M, so that's gonna.
Yeah, Conception, yeah, some similar like that.
That's gonna help with passing game. With the running game, that's probably one of the weaker spots with the Browns this season. So I feel like our defense is gonna go hard against that, and as well as the passing. But I feel like this one is gonna be probably a blowout. Titans win most likely. I feel like we got the better team going into the game against the Browns. So
okay, so I want to talk about that offense is very young. Like they added a lot of guys in the offense. Denzel Boston. They also drafted in the second round and fell to the Browns. You got Spencer Fano, your left tackle. You got some young pieces in the offensive line. I think, honestly, to me, I don't think the Browns will be that great this year. We shouldn't be shocked. I think the Browns are going to be kind of bombing the league. I think Deshaun Watson is going to start for the Texans right now. That's currently today. But I won't be surprised they throw a little Shadur Sanders in some of those plays. It won't really shock me at all. The defense is still the same. They didn't really add too many starters to this offseason. They kind of kept the same guys they had from last year. And a brand new coach in Todd Monken. We'll see how he does. This is his first year. I think he'll be pretty much running the offense. But I'm excited to see Myles Garrett. And Myles Garrett's always a tough opponent. He had a big game last year against Dan Moore. And, you see Mason Graham on the inside. And then a guy that I do like a lot because, my buddy, he's a close friend of his, Carson Schweitzer, who actually won Defensive Rookie of the Year last year, who I think is a great upcoming talented middle linebacker. But, the Browns still got some good players on both sides of the ball. I think this is a win for the Titans. I mean, this is a must-win, especially, like we just mentioned, the Colts could be 50-50 and the Texans as well. So if you lose against Houston and if you're 50-50 against Indianapolis, you need to get this win at home before this bye week, because this is the last game before the bye week because you're on the road next week. So it would be nice to get a win before the bye week.
Yes, well, the bye week is the week after this coming up.
Yeah, this is the last year.
So week 8 is at Cincinnati. That's gonna be a tough one because going into this game, especially Joe Burrow is gonna be back, and they have done really well to upgrade their defense. Their offensive line is still weak in some parts of it, but I feel like Joe Burrow is gonna just go off against us, and I think that one's gonna be a loss in Cincinnati. that one's an easy explanation there.
Yeah, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be very interesting. I will say this though. I do think you're right. I think it is a win though. But Jamar Chase and T Higgins always two guys that's going to be hard to cover, and that is going to be hard. I think healthy Joe Burrow can do some things next year for the Bengals. I think that'd be a fun matchup to see. But yeah, I just don't know about the Bengals defense, man. The secondary looks kind of weak. It's not the strongest secondary, and there's a lot of new faces in that room. So if the Titans offense really can take control, yeah, again, this would be a really nice win. The defensive line looks great. They got Bowie Mafi, Dexter Lawrence, and Jonathan Allen. I just really think this is a middle of the pack 500 team. This is not going to go team that's going to go far. Oh heck, they might finish under 6 wins this year. I don't know, but a lot of question marks for the Cincinnati Bengals. If Joe Burrow's on his game, he'll make it more closer. If he's not in his game and his offensive line struggles, which is done in the past, which I don't know why they can't build around Joe Burrow, the offensive line, it just makes me wonder in my head. It's like, well, you have a young quarterback build around the offensive line, so still paying your two top receivers. I mean, it's kind of crazy. But anyway, the point is, yeah, this could be a close. I think this will be a good win, but I won't be surprised if it's close if Joe Burrow does have a good game or Jamar Chase. They have a good game on offense.
Yeah, so the following week after that would be a bye, and then get back from the bye, another divisional game, first one against the Jaguars, and we get them again 2 weeks after. So this one's a home game. I don't know why they didn't put that the last week of the season at primetime. That blows my mind. But
I actually had it as a primetime game too as my prediction. I was like, that's gonna be a primetime game, but
right.
oh well.
But otherwise, this one is gonna be interesting. I think it's gonna be. I think these matchups against the Jaguars this season, especially the first one, it's gonna be better viewing games than it was last season. And I think we are more built this season, be more competitive against the Jaguars. I feel like we can compete against them. The only factor I'm questioning is with Lawrence. If he has a season like he did last season or better, then that goes out the window. And
Yeah.
if he targets Brian Moore. Thomas, thank you, Thomas. I was thinking another Brian Thomas Moore, and have Jacoby Myers as a second weapon. That's going to be hard to stop. And then with their running back, he's first year with RB1 this season. Not Tutu, sorry.
Yeah, you got it, Tootin. It's Mashul Tootin, yeah.
I was saying Tutu, but it's Tootin. I don't know what to expect from him, but he has potential to be a good running back, but I don't know. But with this at home against the Jaguars, I think that's gonna be a win for us. I'm marking that down as a win for the Titans.
Yeah, I'm interested to see this new Jags team. You know, the Tennessee Titans were not lucky in 2026. They did not have any good opponents. I mean, they did not get lucky against these guys twice. I do still like the weapons. Like you mentioned, Brian Thomas Jr. and Jacoby Myers are still good weapons. And Parker Washington, he always does something. I'm interested to see what Travis Hunter is going to do this year, right? It is going to be interesting to see where he's going to go, if he's going to play more corner, if he's going to play more on the offense. Like, where do they want to put him more? I think they'll put him more on the defense for Hunter this year, just to kind of limit him just a little bit, just to be a little more careful. I am also questionable with the running back game because, you know, they lost ETN, right? So ETN's not there anymore. So the biggest question is, do you expect Tootin to take a big role? I mean, you're asking two late round picks in this from last year's draft to take a pretty big role this year. Could they make a move potentially? Sure, they can make one more move. This is season still May. You can make one more move, two more moves, three more moves, whatever. I just don't know, in my opinion, if that's going to carry them over the top. If they want to add like a veteran in that room. Lawrence, I think, is going to have a good year. He's shown off last year. The Jags also had a really weird draft. They drafted a tight end in the second round to kick things off, and I think people were criticizing them for it. But at the end of the day, it really is going to matter how they're going to do on the field. But they got some good players, man, on both sides of the ball. Josh Hines Allen is also good to rush the passer. He's always been an effective pass rusher. Trayvon Walker had a big year last year. I think he's going to take a big step in 2026. That defensive line still has some good studs around it. So, yeah, there's still some good players on this team. And again, the biggest question is, how is Travis Hunter going to be playing? This is his first year back from injury.
Yes, very good point there about Hunter. I've seen reports on Hunter that they are going to have him more on the cornerback side on defense this season compared to both wide receiver and corner. So I don't know by that point what their game plan's gonna be. Like they could change it by the time the season starts. That's how crazy the off season is and preseason is. Like especially with the injuries. So it's like, oh, a major injury happens. Like if let's say one of their wide receivers gets hurt during the preseason, they could have to throw them out there as a wide receiver. So that's something to keep an eye out on the next couple months here. So the following game, it would be at the Cowboys. I think with the Cowboys, that's going to go 50-50. I'm expecting the Cowboys to have a down year.
You think Dallas have a down year? Okay.
Yes. I expect them to get the number one pick. My opinion. The upgrade at quarterback to get Archie Manning as a quarterback there. And also upgrade coach Bill Belichick. So that's why I'm keeping my eye out on with the Cowboys. So I think that could be a Titans win there. Last time we played them was a Monday night game down there. Last time we were down there. All whites. Hopefully we can do that again. That'd be sick. With the Cowboys, you got Prescott. He's up and down. You don't know what he's going to look like this season. He still has CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is still a big threat. I feel like Lamb's going to have an up year. And then on their defense, I like the pick of Downs, but that defense without Parsons that's what I don't like about the Cowboys. You get rid of Parsons, what's the plan? You know what I mean? Like you don't have that threat. I see the part of them try to balance out the defense. You lose that bang there in your defense. I don't know what Jerry Jones' vision is with that. So I feel like this will be a Titans win.
Really, really bold. May 15th. Really bold. Dallas is going to get the number one overall pick. Put it on the board. Brady says that Dallas is going to get number one overall pick. Respect the opinion though. But to start things out, George Pickens is back. He finally signed the extension. Well, not the extension. The franchise tag thing or whatever it is. And then you still got CeeDee Lamb, so you still got some studs. I honestly, to me, I still see a couple guys in the offense taking off this year. I think the offensive line's okay. It's not the best, but it's also not the worst. You still got some good studs on that line. Again, you mentioned it. The biggest question is Dak Prescott. And everybody asks, is this the year? Is this the year? Is this the year? We don't know. I don't think Dallas is going to go really far this year. And I'll be honest, I don't like Dallas' running game. If Javonte Williams goes down or has an injury, I don't know what Dallas's plans are behind him because they don't really have much depth behind Javonte Williams. So that's still my biggest concern for Dallas's offense. For your defense, though, like you mentioned, you don't see much guys as studs. The biggest guy that's a big threat still is Quinnen Williams, the defensive tackle for the Jets. I know it's not the biggest steal, but it still is a guy that can make an impact. I think they did better. I would say they're not Micah Parsons players, but I think they did okay. They got Rashawn Gary. They also drafted Malachi Lawrence. They got those two guys who can rotate a lot on that defense. But you got some okay linebackers. I mean, Sean Barham's not too bad. D. Winters is pretty solid. Your secondary room, man, is still biggest question mark. You're losing out on Trayvon Diggs, who they released last season, end of last season. So how are they going to fix that? Is Kobe Durant, do you have faith in him as your QB1? I don't know. From Dallas, he's had some issues in the past. Can he rebound that? Sure, of course. But I think that's still a big question mark. I can see this potentially 50-50. I can see this as a win. I would love to see a win on the road. I mean, if you get a win against Dallas on the road, against a team that's still kind of like up in the air, who I wouldn't put them as Super Bowl favorites. I put them as a wild card favorite today. That'd be fun. If the Titans get a win on the road, I would expect a win over Dallas if Dak Prescott doesn't play well.
Yeah, so now back to the Jaguars game again. This time in Jacksonville. Funny enough how the schedule falls for us this season. This time I feel like it's gonna be Jaguars win, especially in Jacksonville. Although in late November it's not as hot, but I just feel like they're gonna even it up there in Jacksonville, get outnumbered that game. So I feel like Jacksonville is gonna win that one, the second game of the season, possibly the last game of the season against them. So
yeah, that will be the last game, unless they face them in the playoffs somehow in some way. The Titans, they got swept last year. I don't expect them to get swept this year. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Titans are going to hold their ground a little more than they did last year. I think they're going to play more competitive football, and I think that's the biggest goal is you want to play more competitive football than you did a year ago. And, the Liam Cohen, Robert Saleh rivalry, I know Saleh said it's a little more calmer, but, they may go at it again, especially that team. So I don't think we'll sweep the Jags this year. I think we'll split. Either 1-1's fair enough to me, and I think that's fine to me. If you split against the Jacksonville Jaguars, that's a huge plus than a season ago.
I agree. It would be a major plus. And then go back home, play Washington. I have question marks about Washington, especially although I am glad that they're getting younger on their defense than they were last season. I feel like that held them back, and especially with Jayden Daniels' injury. By December 6th, that's going to be like a full calendar year since his injury. I feel like Jayden Daniels is going to be fine this season. Hopefully they can keep him up and not injured.
Yeah.
If he's injured, I feel like that's going to be Titans win. If he's healthy, I'm playing like Jayden Daniels-esque ball, then the Commanders will win that one in Tennessee. So at this moment, I'm giving Washington the win with a healthy Daniels.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned Jayden Daniels being healthy. Jayden Daniels, I think, is going to have a good year. This is another year. I'm not going to say it's like you have to have a good year, but this is a good year for Jayden Daniels, right? He got hurt twice last season, had the elbow injury, just was never healthy enough. He never really got back to that form. And then to be fair, that's understandable. When you injure your elbow really bad like that. But you mentioned, I think the priority this offseason for the Commanders is get better on defense. And they definitely did that with Sonny Styles at the 7th pick. That's a good pickup, right? Linebacker that's going to play right away, especially at the middle linebacker spot. You got some young guys around you. They spent a little bit with Rory from the Chargers. I like Tim Settle from Houston. You got some nice depth. Joshua Josephs is going to play a lot in the rotation role, the guy from Tennessee. I'm still a little bit questionable about their secondary room. A couple guys I don't really know about too much. The nickel spot maybe could be a little more better than it looks on paper right now, but I think that's going to be the biggest question for Washington. I do also want to say it's another game against a former Titans, Chig Okonkwo, and also Van Jefferson, who are both now in Washington from Tennessee. Okonkwo is the starter, which is no surprise, but scary Terry McLaurin versus Alontae Taylor. They faced each other in the past. They're going to face each other again. I know Alontae Taylor is going to – he didn't play too much of him the year before because, Alontae's in the mostly nickel. He played more outside last year. I think they're going to have a really good matchup, 1-on-1 on the outside. So that's who I'm truly watching on in that game.
Right. And also another name to throw out there, just in case if Daniels is hurt, another former Titan, Mariota. So that's another name to
Mhm.
watch out for
Mhm.
around that time period of the year. So with the next game will be at Detroit. Oh, it depends on
That's gonna be tough.
what Detroit is doing. Like last year, I feel like that was just a down year. I feel like this year is gonna be
Yeah.
an up year, and it just depends on Goff as well. I feel like they need to upgrade at quarterback. I think that's the only thing that's missing is upgrade at quarterback. If they can get that, then they're set. But I feel like that's gonna be the Lions win in Detroit. They are miles better than us, especially with Hutchinson and Brown, all those weapons on defense. JMO, that's unstoppable right there, basically. And like, if you can shut at least one of them down, you're good. But you still have to worry about Laporta at tight end. So also Jameer Gibbs at running back. So it's gonna be a lot. It'll be like going up against the Patriots back in the day. So like, you have to find the one person you want shut down for the game. But it's in Detroit, and if they're really good, it's gonna be loud. And I don't think it's gonna be a blowout like last time.
Mhm.
I think it's gonna be a little bit closer of a game, a little bit lower scoring than it was last time. But still, Lions win.
Yeah, you mentioned Lions, and the biggest thing this offseason is their offensive line, and I keep bringing this up. And the reason for especially for the Detroit, is they lost two guys in that line. They lost their center, and then they're blanking top of his name right now, and then they lost their left tackle and Taylor Decker. So when you lose both of those guys, you're kind of wondering yourself, what's the plan? What is the plan for Detroit? Well, they got two new guys this offseason. They moved Penei Sewell to left tackle, which he was primarily at before, and then they got Blake Miller from Clemson, who's going to pull in that right tackle spot, and then Cade Mays, the center from Carolina. You got some guys on that offense who can make splashes, and Jameson Williams, Amon St. Brown. I think those guys are always a great 1-2 punch duo. I do like the depth behind them in Kedrick Law, who they drafted in the 5th round, and then Isaac Tesla, who stepped up last year for Detroit, who's gonna have a big role on the offense. And I mentioned it, the Lions, they traded Dave Montgomery. So Isaiah Pacheco's coming in that backfield now. He's gonna be competing for the second spot in that room. And I think Jahmyr Gibbs is the number one running back, of course, but could he maybe split a little bit more with Pacheco and those guys maybe have at it a little bit more? Sure. And you mentioned that defensive line, and you mentioned the defense. The defense is nice. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson still there. Derek Moore they drafted it's gonna be this year's draft in the 2nd round. They do have a couple injuries they're trying to come back for him, and Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. And they did add McClary from Rams, who was also on the Titans last year. So they got some studs around them. I do think Detroit's going to have a better year. I think last year's was a down year. They're in that little funk. They're in that little groove. Like, hey, we lost a lot of close games. We lost a lot of close games here and there. I do think Detroit's going to be a 10 to 12 win team this year. I do think Detroit's going to get right back where they were just season ago.
Yes, and with the Lions, I think they will be right back where they were a couple years ago in the NFC Championship game. But this time, I think they have to get over that hump. I think this may be that year that they get over the hump. It depends on who they get in the NFC Championship game. If they get their divisional rivals, the Bears, that can go either way. Same thing if they get the Rams. So that's what I'm looking at for the Lions this season. So, like, do you think the Titans will beat the Lions in Detroit, or do you think the Lions will win in Detroit?
I think Lions are going to take this one in Detroit. This is the Tennessee Titans. And again, your point. I do think the Titans are going to be more competitive in this game, though. I think that's who Robert Saleh is, and I won't be surprised at a 1-score game. I won't be. Heck, if you telling me, Brady, this year, like, we have a couple of those 1-score games, I would not be mad at all, because that shows that we fought a lot in these games. So I do think it might be a 1- to 2-score game, but that's where I'm currently standing right now.
I feel like this season's gonna feel like that first year that we had Vrabel. It's like a lot of ups and downs, but close games, competitive games come down to the
That's
end.
what we want. That's the biggest thing we want in Tennessee is we want to hit. And I'll be honest with people. I don't think we'll get 12 wins this year. I don't think we'll be 10, 12 wins. I think the ceiling's 9. And I will tell you this. Like you just mentioned, in the middle of the pack, that schedule. I won't be surprised if we do get 10 wins. But I think the ceiling right now is 9. And I think this will be a way better year. I think people are going to look at the record and be like, "Oh, they're just a mid team." No, if you get from 3 to 9 wins, that's a way better stat. And you're heading into the off season with Cam Ward having a good season, and then your team looks a little more better out. And you're like, we feel a little more confident. What's the next step? That's what if I'm walking out of here from a year ago today, I'm like, yeah, I feel a little more confident about that.
I agree with that. Yes. So after the Lions, we go home and play the final game against the Colts. Like I said earlier, with the fact that the Colts, if Taylor is running over us, that's a loss. We can stop Taylor. That's all needs to happen. If they stop Taylor effectively, that's a win. I feel like it's gonna be a split this season. I feel like we got to lose in Indianapolis, and then we're going to win at home against the Colts. Or it could go vice versa, but I got us winning at home and then winning on their home field.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, we'll see what's going to happen against the Colts. But like I just mentioned, I think it's going to be more competitive this year. We're going to see, again, a lot more competitive games. I think Titans fans should be more excited, and they will – see that, hey, this is going to be a pretty competitive game. I don't know about again. I think if you're asking me between this game and last game, I do think Daniel Jones will settle in just a little bit more, just because maybe he's gotten a little more playing time. But let's just say I don't remember what week that was the Colts, that week 7, whatever the first time it was, something like that. It was week 6. Yeah. Okay. So if Daniel Jones is not if he's healthy, but he kind of rushed it, because a lot of guys do that where they rush it and then you're like, okay, maybe I'm off by a week or 2. Maybe that's where you see Daniel Jones get more going. And if Indianapolis is competing for the playoffs, that could be a big thing as well. That could be a big game for Indianapolis to try to beat the Titans. So time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell. I agree. So after the Colts, we go to the Raiders. That's the furthest traveling game the Titans has this season.
Thank goodness. I don't want to travel to Cal. Look, I rather just travel to Vegas and just to come home, man. I'll be so excited when that flight's gonna be horrible, but anyway, we'll be good. We'll see
with the Vegas Raiders, I think their upgrades they've done so far this season. I was surprised that they got Cousins. I thought Cousins would go to Arizona. I like that fit better for him. Arizona, he can if let's say this is his last season, he could have maybe gotten the front office job and help Arizona clean up their stuff. But he went to Raiders. I can see why. With the Raiders, they got Mendoza. I feel like he's got a year this season. But it just depends on how well that offensive line holds up. But I like that Lindenbaum pickup they got. It's going to help them win more games than last season. Their defense is still a question mark, especially with the trade talks with Max Crosby. Are they going to trade him or are they not going to trade him? And then with the trade being rerouted basically by the Ravens on his physical. So, are they – that's the question by that point is, do they still have Max Crosby? If they do, that's got to be a little bit more a threat on the defense. If they don't, that's one less thing to worry about against the Raiders. But I think that he will still be there at that point.
Yeah, I want to bring up the offense first. You brought up Linderbaum, who they just brought in free agency, who $27 million. That's insane. I will tell you this: the Titans wanted him, but they're out on the $27 million price tag, so that's out. But I'm not surprised about Cousins, and I want to say this just because the Raiders they wanted to bring in a veteran with Fernando Mendoza, and the biggest question is, do they don't want to rush him right away? And I don't think Mendoza is going to start week 1. However, I think a reason why this game is late because potentially Fernando Mendoza might start. That's the reason why this game is later than we all thought. That's potentially a possibility. And it was really going to wonder, hey, how is this going to work? So they want to put it off as much as they can because they want 2 number 1 overall picks facing each other. That's what the NFL wants. And I will tell you this, I won't be surprised if this is a primetime game. If Mendoza is here, this could very much get flexed into a primetime game. It won't very much shock me. I'm trying to figure out. It could be used up. Flexible scheduling. And Monday Night Football. And it could be either Monday Night Football or Thursday Night Football between these 2 games. I won't be surprised if it's more Monday night, but I'm not ruling that out just because of the 2 number 1 overall picks. The Raiders, their offense looks a little better than last year. Ashton Genty's there. I think Genty's going to have a better year. Linderbaum's going to help that running game a lot. I think Powers Johnson's going to have a good year at right guard. I do think Colton Miller is still a good left tackle option there for the Raiders. But the defense, yeah, you mentioned it. I mean, I don't think Max Crosby is going to get traded. And the reason why I say that is because if he was traded, he probably would get traded by now. However, it won't shock me if he's traded by June. That very much could happen. If AJ Brown's out by June, you can see another player go out by June as well. That won't be surprising. At this moment, though, I just don't know. I don't think Max Crosby is going to get traded. He said on his own show, he's like, hey, I want to be a Raider. I want to be here. The thing with the Ravens, it was very fishy, and that'll be another topic for another time. I think that trade was pretty weird by the Ravens just because I don't think they want to give up those picks. I think that's why they backed out of it. And that's why they went and go sign Trey Hendrickson. So the defense looks a little more better. The secondary is still not the best, but they got depth behind it. Jamon McCoy is going to be a pretty big addition. Treon Stukes is easily one of my favorite sleepers in this year's draft, and it has been for a very long time. So, I mean, again, I like it. I do think this is a win on the road, but I think especially because Fernando Mendoza, I think John Franklin Myers and Jeffrey Simmons is going to pressure him a lot. I think they can get to him. But however, if he goes off, very much go the other way as well.
Right. I agree. Yeah, I was looking at the schedule and trying to figure out which game possibly could be flexed, and I feel like that is the one. And I was looking at that and the Steelers that's coming up here in the next week. But I think it's more likely the Raiders one will be flexed. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
That kind of my thought was that I know that the Bills-Dolphins game was a 4:00 game with the Bills' last home game in the old Highmark. I was thinking maybe they would have done the same thing for the Titans, but that's a 1:00 start for Steelers one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 1:00. It's the tickets are already pretty expensive. It's gonna be wild.
I'm not surprised because it's the Steelers. So,
Yeah.
But with the Steelers, the biggest question mark I have for them is I don't like the head coach hiring that got. I thought they would have gotten Stefanski. I thought that fit better for them over what they got, but it's fine. And then with the quarterback, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to go back there. I think he's going to go to Minnesota and complete Brett Favre's circle. Packers, Jets, Vikings.
Oh, I think he's on the Vikings. Okay.
Yeah, although Rodgers rerouted himself to the Steelers, so I think that's going to be a full circle for the Brett Favre circle. So, but with the Steelers, it's going to be either Howard or Aller for the starting quarterback. I think it's going to be back and forth at that point. I feel like that's going to be a win for the Titans, especially with how that's going to be the last home game at the old Nissan Stadium, and they probably want to go off with the high at the old one, and especially with that they probably have the old Titans players there, Jeff Fisher most likely. So they don't want to embarrass themselves in front of them. They want to have a good game and win it. So I think that's going to be a win against the Steelers. And with the Steelers on the defensive side, I have go bold here. I don't think Watt is going to be there at that point. I think he's going to be gone.
He's going to be gone. Okay.
Yeah. So that's going to start a rebuild on the defense side, get younger. So I think Watt is going to be gone. So it's going to make it one less thing to worry about for the Steelers. I feel like that's another thing that'll be a factor in the win for the Titans.
Yeah, what's up? Oh, go ahead. Okay. The Steelers, I think, in my opinion, I do think it'll be a win. Excuse me, the Titans will get a win on the Steelers. This has so much this will be an emotional game for the Titans because this is the last game in Nissan Stadium. There's going to be a lot of emotional things that are going on. I mean, almost every seat's going to be full. If it's not, then I don't know what's going on. But I know a lot of people are going to go to the final game. That offense with DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman, those two guys, I think are going to have a good two-punch. You had Janami Bernard also. They wanted Mekhi Lemon. It's funny enough, they made a call, and they were actually about to draft Mekhi Lemon because they didn't think the team in front of them was going to do that. Well, they didn't know that Philly traded with Dallas, and Philly, drafted Mekhi Lemon. I think the Steelers' offensive line is still another question mark, and it's going to be a question mark just because I don't feel confident in their interior. I do like Max Anchor at the right tackle spot. I think he's one of the best right tackles in this NFL draft. But I don't know how the rest of the guys are going to go. I do like Troy Fautanu. I don't know about Frazier and McCormick yet. I haven't studied too much of those guys. They got Jennings Ductor. Broderick Jones is hurt too. He's a little bit injured, so if he comes back and healthy, maybe he would convert to guard. But the quarterback situation, what is going on with that? And Mason Rudolph, is he the starter? I don't think so. And he's currently listed as a starter right now.
No.
But is he going to be the starter is the question. I don't know. Former Tennessee Titan legend, by the way. Do they trust in Drew Aller, right? We don't know. They want Aaron Rodgers back, but Aaron Rodgers is being very stingy with him. He's not communicating to the Steelers. And I posted about him like, this is going to be a while, isn't it? And it probably will be a while. So that's their offense front. Defense front, you mentioned TJ Watt. I won't be surprised either if he does get traded. This team, honestly, to me, looks like a 500 team at best. This is probably another 9-8, 10-7 team, and then the Steelers are gonna they're probably gonna be suffering again, and they're probably gonna lose first round of the playoffs. They do make it, but I think the Titans will get one more final win in Nissan Stadium.
With the Steelers, I think they're gonna be worse than you think.
You think what do you think they'll be with their record this year?
I think they're gonna be either last in their division or third in the division. So like 4 or 5 wins or less.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Another bold prediction you can put on the post-it note. You can keep right there and be like, these are my bold predictions, and just leave them on the post-it note. You should do that.
Exactly. So last game of the season at Houston. I feel like that one on here on ESPN says to be dated flex game. If we are in the running for a wild card, I feel like that's gonna be a flex game to like probably the last game of the season, Sunday night.
You also Saturday too, because that's that week. Yeah, that week's all Saturday. I might not even cut you off. Saturday's also that could be week 18 also.
Right, but this could also be like that. For example, when we had Vince Young and we went to Indy, they flexed it to a Sunday night game, last game of the season. We upset them and beat them. So, but hold on. I think we did make playoffs that year. Lost the Chargers. That's what that was. Yeah.
What was that? Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
But with this, if we're in that same spot, I feel like this game is gonna be that Sunday night game, last game of the season. especially with the fact it's division rival game, and the fact with we have the Oilers players back again. So I feel like that crowd is gonna be riled up, and probably by then, my thinking is Texans will have the division locked up, and they'll probably be a 1 or 2 seed, in my opinion. But for us, I think we like if we play well during the season and are in that run-in for a wild card, I think this could be. I have this as a win though, but this could be one of those games that if we win, we put us in the wild card, and we'll be traveling on the road in the playoffs for a wild card, and anything happen. Anything can happen in playoffs, but I don't think we will win that wild card game. But with
Yeah,
the Texans, I feel like that game in Houston for us, it's got to be a win.
yeah, and again, it's really gonna matter. Hey, like you mentioned, if they do make the playoffs and if they're a high seed, do they rest potentially CJ Stroud and the defense just to give him one more extra week, and then maybe you feel comfortable about that, right? Because that could be very much a potential as well. I'm also very interested to see how this season's going to go with their matchups. I have to take a look at the Houston Texans schedule and be like, hey, what's this going to be on the line? And again, I mentioned to you about the Saturday game. It very much could happen.
Right.
That very much could happen. That and I'm going to make a whole thing talking about later on, but that could be a Saturday game just because if let's just say the Titans are maybe 9-7 at that time, or either the Texans maybe 10-7 or whatever the heck wild it is. Maybe is that a game for the division, or maybe for the line? Because let's just say either Jacksonville, Indianapolis has struggles, and you're like, okay, it's Titans and Texans. What's that going to look like, right? That's the prediction. So that very much could be a wild card game. I would love that to be a Saturday game. I would love that to be a Saturday game. Just that would be fun. I wish it was at home, like you mentioned, because I actually did want that home. But I'm not mad about that on the road, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. Titans at Texans, and you know what? I don't think this will be late, but rivalry jerseys, because to me that's when they come out this year. So are they going to come out 18 or are they going to come out before? We don't know. We'll see what happens.
Since you mentioned that, I kind of have a concept of how I think our rivalry jersey should look like. I don't think I've seen other concepts that other people have done. Like they done like navy blue with like the stars on the shoulders. I don't mind that. My thinking is if you do like honor do it like the NBA or MLB, like do something that's not just the city, do it within the state because we did play in Memphis. My thinking is that we could do like a combination, not a combination, but like one of the two options I have here is either do a 68 special looking Elvis thing with it. So I can show the audience what I'm talking about here. So like with this jumpsuit he wore in the 68 special. So I could do that. Or something that also ties in the state. It has the same color as the Columbia Blue jerseys have. Blue. So he has a blue one as well. So they could do something like that for the rivalry jerseys. Be sick. That's my concept of it.
I hope it's something with music, man. That'd be legendary. The
Yeah.
thing is, I would love to have Music City just right here because that would be fun. Yeah, no, and the only hint that we really got is that gosh, who was that? It was I'm trying to think who it was now. Burke Nihill said that Navy's in the jersey somewhere. So maybe, but it's weird because they said that with the start. They said like, yeah, I have to look back and see what they said, but could it just be talks? Could it just be in the middle of the shirt? I don't know yet, but I would love to have the Music City somewhere, just to have something music with Nashville.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So that's our breakdown of the season going into the season. Thanks for coming on again, and
Thanks, bro.
also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and tighten up.